Hey honey buns, y'all scooch in close for a little story time. So about 25 years ago, a cute little Tony learned how to crochet from her beautiful mama Gwen. Now after completing my very first project, I put crochet down for about a decade. Fast forward and crochet has found me once again. But I had no idea how many mistakes I was gonna make in those early days and months, like none. I'm just out here vibing, you know, making my little projects, but I am wondering why nothing I made looked like the photo that was the inspiration. Turns out I was making the same mistakes over and over again, and nobody told me. Now what had me messed up is that this had nothing to do with the pattern, right? Designers expect you to know certain things, they're implied, myself included, to keep you from experiencing the fresh hell that I went through. Today I am breaking down 15 of the most common mistakes that most crocheters make. And when it comes down to it, most of us made these mistakes for way longer than we're willing to admit. I'm talking tension, counting, terminology, tools, the whole lot of it. It's the kind of stuff that separates a project that you're proud of from one that you want to shove into a drawer. And if you know what drawer I'm talking about, go ahead and sit down, grab a whip, and let's talk, sweetie. And while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. We are only 10,000 away from 1 million. I cannot believe it. Today's video is brought to you by Quince. Now I have to give big love to Quince for sponsoring today's video because they showed up at the exact right time. I don't know about y'all, but I am getting pretty sick of spending my hard-earned dollars on clothes that I know I'm not gonna have next year. This is the stuff that is gonna pill after 2 washes. It is so scratchy on your skin, you can't wait to rip it off, and the quality is just, it's just bad. I've been checking labels a lot when I go shopping, and there are so many materials in the clothes that we wear, and it's got my skin fighting for its life, and I am just ready to stop. Now that's where Quince comes in, and they're a little bit different. Let me show you. This boyfriend sweater that I'm wearing is 100% grade A Mongolian cashmere. It's got a super long staple length, which means no pilling, and you can feel the difference from the second you put it on. We've got no synthetic nonsense, no scratchy tags, just good material that you're never gonna wanna take off. I've also been living in this 100% organic cotton fisherman's crew neck sweater. And since I got the cardigan, you know I had to get the Mongolian cashmere sweater too. Every single one of these pieces fits into my real life, and it's not just for a photo shoot. The quality here is the point. It's time for us to level up our wardrobe, and Quince is making that happen for us. And one of the things that I love most about this company is that they work directly with the manufacturers. No middlemen and no markups. So you're getting genuinely premium materials at a price that feels more like an investment and not like a gamble. Timeless pieces, responsible production, great quality. What else could you ask for? Now, if you want to try out Quince, you can scan the QR code that's floating around my head or check the link that's down in the description. And if you're feeling a little bit nervous, totally understandable. They do offer free shipping and 365-day free returns. Now that's the cheat code if you want to level up your wardrobe with zero risk to you. Thank you so much to Quince for sponsoring today's video, and thank you so much for watching. Now let's get back to it. The first mistake many beginners make is crocheting into the wrong part of the stitch. Now this is an easy fix if you know what to look for. Every stitch has 2 loops at the top, a front loop and a back loop. Unless specifically instructed, you should insert your hook under both of these loops for every stitch. Here's what that looks like. In this swatch, I'm making double crochet stitches. I'll start with the yarn over, insert my hook under both loops of the stitch, and complete the double crochet. Now in patterns, there's an abbreviation called FLO, which stands for front loop only. If you see that, create your stitch in the front loop only, leaving the back loops unworked. Conversely, if you see back loop only, or BLO, you're going to work your stitches into the back loop, leaving the front loops unworked. Let's talk about why it's a mistake to ignore your gauge swatch. I know this is the one part of crocheting that nobody likes. It definitely feels like homework before you get to the fun part, but just know that taking this extra step could literally save your project from being unusable. Start by making a patch of fabric with your hook and your yarn that's about 2 inches longer and wider than the gauge measurement in the pattern. Then grab a ruler or a gauge tool like this one and measure the number of stitches and rows in the size recommended in the pattern. Here's how we read the swatch. If you have more stitches than the pattern gauge, it means that your stitches are too small and you need to go up a hook size. If you have less stitches than the pattern gauge, it means that your stitches are too big and you need to go down a hook size. Make another swatch with the new hook and keep going until you meet gauge. Or you might be one of the chosen few who hits gauge on first try, and if that's the case, you better shout that from the mountaintop, sweetheart. If your hands start cramping after 20 minutes of crocheting, your grip is probably the problem. Many beginners tend to clench the hook for dear life, but it's actually a light touch that you want, and that's what's going to turn your crochet hook into a magic wand. There are two different ways to hold your hook: the pencil grip, where the hook is hovering over your hands, or the knife grip, where the hook is nestled in your hand. There's really no right or wrong way, so pick the way that feels most natural to you. If grip is still the problem, try shifting your hand down the hook to give yourself a wider range of motion. Check in every few minutes to see how your hands feel. We want control, sweetheart, not a death grip. Stitch markers aren't just for beginners who can't count. They come in handy for all kinds of situations. First, you need to know the different types of markers. These are quick locking stitch markers. I really like these because they can fasten and unfasten with one hand. They're lightweight and come in packs of different sizes. Then there are split ring markers. These ones don't have to be fastened and easily mark stitches with a flick of the wrist. Lastly, there are novelty markers like this cutie. These often have lobster clasps or hinge clasps like earrings. Just make sure you don't buy closed markers like these. They're meant for knitting and will not work for crochet. You can use stitch markers for all kinds of things, like marking a long chain to help you keep count, marking your crochet fabric so you can tell the front from the back, and marking the first and last stitch of your row so you don't add stitches. More on that later. Stitch markers do not have to be fancy. Chances are you have a few things laying around the house that are perfect as a stitch marker, like paper clips, safety pins, bread ties, and even a scrap bit of yarn. My rule of thumb is, if there's a chance that it could be helpful, pop in a stitch marker. We're all clear on how much I love stitch markers, right? One of my favorite ways to use them is to mark the first and last stitch of my rows. This really helps beginners avoid unintentionally adding stitches to their work. Here's how I like to do it. After making the starting chain, make your first couple of stitches and pop a locking stitch marker under the top 2 loops of your first stitch. Then continue down the chain and make the rest of your stitches. At the end of the row, create your turning chain and turn your work. Make your first stitch and pop a locking stitch marker into that stitch as well. Work down the row until you reach the next marker. This is the last stitch of your row. Complete a stitch in the same place as the marker. Make the turning chain and then turn your work. Complete the first stitch and move up the marker. Do this for each row until it's clear to see the beginning and ends of your rows. The foundation chain is the backbone of every crochet project, and if yours is too tight, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle from the very beginning. Your chains will be hard to work into, and you could end up with the first few rows of your project bowing out at very weird angles. Let's avoid that with one easy trick. Try going up 1 full millimeter size on your hook to make the starting chain. This small tweak helps adjust your overall tension. After making the chain, switch back to the hook needed for your project. You'll immediately notice your chains are easier to work into, and you'll have a beautifully straight first row, setting up the rest of your project for success. Here's a mistake that's happened to nearly every crocheter, mixing up US and UK terminology. In this case, stitches can have the same name but mean something completely different depending on where the pattern was written or published. Let's go through a few together. Both US and UK terms for chain are the same, so no issues there. The abbreviations for slip stitch are slightly different, but the action is the same. Here's where we start to have some issues. A US single crochet, abbreviated SC, is the same as a UK double crochet, abbreviated DC. The problem is there's also a US double crochet, abbreviated DC, but that stitch is the same as a UK treble crochet, abbreviated TR. At this point, it might feel like your head is gonna explode, but it's okay, bestie. Well-written patterns will specify if abbreviations are in US or UK terms. When in doubt, ask the designer. Crochet has many quirks, one of which being how we size our hooks. We have not one, not two, but 3 different ways to size our hooks, including a US number, metric millimeters, and a letter system, and they don't always match up neatly across hook brands. For example, you might hear someone mention a size 8 hook, a 5mm hook, or an H hook. These are all the same size. To further confuse us, different brands subscribe to different sizing systems. This Furls hook lists the letter and the millimeter, while this Susan Bates hook has the letter, the number, and the millimeter. If this is all still new to you, stick to the metric millimeter sizing. It's the most universal and reliable across hooks. Every now and then you'll come across a hook that has no size markings. When this happens, a gauge tool like this is incredibly helpful. Slot the hook into different spaces until you get a snug fit, and just like that, mystery solved. If you're interested in this gauge tool, I have it linked down below. You've put hours into those crochet squares or that sweater, so don't make the mistake of stopping just before the finish line. Blocking does more than just clean your projects. It can fix wonky edges, add length and width where needed, add drape, and even open up lace. For a long time, crocheters were told they didn't need to block their projects, which is absolutely insane to me. And look, I'm not your mommy, so I can't tell you what to do, but I will silently judge you if you skip blocking, and it will be obvious. This is a topic that trips up a lot of crocheters, so I made not 1, but 2 videos about it. I've got them linked down below, so please take a look so you can finish your projects the right way. One thing your Crochet 101 instructor might have missed is how to count your stitches and rows. This becomes incredibly helpful when you're following patterns or just need to find where you are in a project. We'll start with counting our rows. We know that every stitch has a V at the top, but your stitch also has a post or the collection of loops that make up the body of the stitch. Each post counts as 1 row. So let's count our rows in this swatch. 1 row, 2 rows, here's 3 rows, 4 rows, 5 rows, 6 rows, and 7 rows. So now we know this swatch has 7 rows. Next, let's count our stitches. We'll go back to the V's at the top of our stitches. Each V counts as 1 stitch. So let's go back to the start of our row and count our V's. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. If you're having trouble finding the V's, you can also count from the posts. So let's count again. We've got 1 post. Here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Being able to identify your stitches, aka reading your work, makes counting stitches and rows that much easier. There's something so satisfying about coming to the end of your project and snipping the yarn from the ball, also known as fastening off. But cutting your tails too short can turn that victory lap into a nightmare real quick. Short tails are difficult to thread onto your tapestry needle, and they're way more likely to unravel over time, especially if you're washing your pieces. Avoid this headache altogether by leaving a long tail when finishing your project. When you've completed the last stitch, pull up a tall loop with with your crochet hook. Then give yourself plenty of space from the project to snip the yarn. About 6 inches is safe, but longer is better. Pull the loop up and out of your work, and you have a nice long tail to work with. This will make it easier to thread the tapestry needle and weave in that end. And while we're at it, please weave your ends in multiple directions. This makes them way more secure and less likely to work themselves loose in the future. I can't count how many emails I've received just this week with questions that are clearly answered in the pattern. That's why I always recommend reading the full pattern before taking on a project. Pattern writers are there to help you, and that's why there are pages of info before you even reach row 1. There's often a description of the pattern, which gives you a high-level view of techniques and construction. You'll also find materials, which lists which hooks and sizes you need, as well as the exact yarn used, its fiber makeup, and the amount in different colors. You'll also find the abbreviations, which list the stitches and techniques used. Arguably, the most important section is the pattern notes. This is everything the designer wants you to know, and often where most of your questions can be answered. Read the pattern all the way through, highlight the tricky parts, and look up unfamiliar terminology before you start. Your future self will thank you. Yarn of the same colorway but different dye lots can look identical in the store but noticeably different in your project. Think of dye lots like batch numbers for yarn. Each time a yarn is dyed, the color can be slightly different. Not always dramatically, but enough to create a visible line in your work. So let's take a look at this yarn, right? It's the same brand and the same colorway, but the lot numbers are different. And if you take a closer look at them side by side, you can now see the subtle differences in shade. When buying yarn for a single project, be diligent about having all the dye lots match. If you grab a skein from a different lot, try alternating the skeins in your project. Buying yarn online, get more than you need to prevent running out of yarn. Don't assume that reordering the yarn will give you the same dye lot. When it comes to crochet, there are about 20 different ways to do everything, and one of my favorite arguments is the best way to make a magic ring. Make that thing however you want, but if you're a beginner, let's try to keep it as simple as possible. If you are racking your brain to make a magic ring, go with the slip knot version. When I make a slip knot, I put the tail to the right, I make a loop, a swoop, and I pull. This allows me to close the ring by pulling the yarn attached to the ball. Now to make this a magic ring, simply put the tail to the left and follow the same exact steps. My tail is now to the left. I'm gonna make my loop, my swoop, and pull. I now have a ring I can close by pulling the tail. And there's your super easy magic ring to start your crochet hats and amigurumi projects. Let me put you up on a little crochet lingo. To frog, or frogging your work, means to unravel your stitches. Now this can sound like giving up, but it's actually the complete opposite. Frogging is refusing to let a fixable mistake ruin your project. When we rip out our work, we call it frogging, since rip it sounds like ribbit. And yes, sometimes you have to rip back 10 rows because you kept stitching well past your bedtime and woke up to a horrendous mistake. It hurts now, but it'll hurt even more if you leave the mistake and let it haunt you for eternity. The mistake I really want you to avoid is thinking that the project is a lost cause. One of the benefits of crochet is how easy it is to frog. Take your time and work patiently when frogging to catch the live loop and jump right back into stitching. Most mistakes are recoverable, babe. You got this, I promise. Now, if you saw yourself in even a few of these mistakes, I've got some news for you, baby. You're a crocheter. Every single one of us has been there before, just bumbling through our stitches, but it takes getting through that ugly duckling phase to get really good at this craft. And I get it, seriously, being a beginner can be quite embarrassing, but think about it like this. It's actually pretty powerful. Every single stitch is teaching you something and your brain is starting to be able to read the fabric. And the best part is you're developing that muscle memory in your hands. I love that part. And then one day it just clicks. And this is not like fireworks, right? It's something much quieter. Your tension starts to get really steady. You notice you're not looking at your hands quite as much. Your shoulders are relaxing because you really just know what you're doing. And that's the shift that we're going for, right? Going from, I hope this works, to, I know I'm doing it right. Listen, sweetheart, if you don't take anything else from this video, listen to these words. You're not bad at crochet, you're just getting good. And there is a difference. Now, before we go, I wanna hear from you. Which of these mistakes are you guilty of? Or maybe I didn't hit on the mistake that you're guilty of. Either way, drop down in the comments and save a fellow crocheter. If you needed just a few more crochet tips that nobody told you about, you can check out this video right here. Happy stitching, my loves. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.